MiMi Scardulla, hi.
Hi.
It's so great to see you.
Good to see you too.
There's like a beautiful color scheme happening with like your outfit and the background. I'm here for gallery wall, as you can see behind me.
I
So
love.
noticing, loving. For anybody who does not know you, who are you today?
Oh my goodness, today I am a big booty Broadway performer in the Neil Diamond musical, Beautiful Noise. I am a proud aunt to a beautiful little 6-year-old
Oh,
boy. I'm a proud sister and child of my amazing family. I am a very proud girlfriend to my amazing partner, Skylar. And I am just a little, nugget bopping around the world trying to make it a better place.
I mean, that's really why you're here. I feel like your energy is just so. And social media is a lie, so let's just, like, first name that, but at
Mhm,
least what is perceived of you and the way in which you exist through these mediums, and in your performing, it's just you are this beacon of joy and glitter and, like,
mhm,
vibrancy, and it's just such a wonderful, I don't know, for myself as a maybe more realist. I would never call myself a pessimist, but maybe people think, just like somebody who isn't as sparkly, it's really nice to be near sparkles and not have to create my own. So,
yes. I mean, it's so funny. I think in this age of, like, media and social
Mhm,
media and, I was born into we that existed so much around me, like, from jump, and
mhm.
so when it comes to Instagram, I try really hard not to, like, put the lie out there. Like, I
Yeah,
try really hard to, be very honest about how I am and what I am and, not try to seem too cool. Like,
yeah.
my favorite word is I'm such a little dingus, you know what I mean? So, it is so funny that it can be such a lie, but I think, as it becomes more curated, I become less curated with
Yeah,
it. Like, I'm
yeah.
like, "I don't this is what I wanna post." Like, um, you know,
I
it's
think
just
that's no, but I think that's
as it
important.
becomes more of a thing, I feel like myself, like, kind of jellyfishing away from, you know even though
Yeah,
sometimes I see influencers and I'm like, "Wow, that's a really nice house that you can afford. Ooh,
mhm.
maybe there's something to it," but,
Yeah.
you know
And also, that is a full-time job. We forget
Yes.
that to be an actual influencer the way that it is now, rather than even just a couple years ago, I'd say pre-pandemic, like, to be an influencer then was perhaps a little different than now, where now it's you are creating and content creating.
It is
It's
insane, and
exhausting.
it's exhausting, and it's an incredible talent.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
just compared to, like, me trying to make a reel and my
Yeah.
girlfriend trying to make a reel, like, it is and she's not even, like she is, like, barely on Instagram,
Yeah.
but the patience she has for creating that is, like, night and day to me where I'm like, "Oh, what's the filter?"
Yeah.
And then I just wanna throw my phone across the room, you
Truly.
know? So, it
Truly.
is an incredible skill, and it's its own version of storytelling, you know what I mean? Like, we
Yeah.
follow these Norwegian lesbians and their journey to get pregnant, and we're crying looking at the Instagram when they find out that their baby like, the embryo took, like, it is storytelling at its
Yeah.
finest, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
there's
It's
there's this guy
hilarious.
on TikTok that he's blown up so quickly, I'm forgetting his name at the moment, but he's basically made himself famous from all these videos about, like, perfect ways to gaslight his partners, and, like, it's all, like, fake stuff, it's not real,
Yeah,
but, like, how to gaslight himself into thinking he's having a good day by, like, and it's just, like, it's insane, but to
it's
even
insane.
go down that rabbit hole of how are you coming up with these things on the daily basis, the
Yes.
creativity level of this guy's wild mind is probably problematic, but
Yeah.
I'm here literally
Eating it up.
rolling on the ground. Yeah, like, thank you
Mhm.
so much for your contribution to my waste of time,
Thank you for
and
filling my day.
truly so much, but with that said, yours is all incredible and vibrant and wonderful, and so thank you for
Thank
giving that
you.
to
That
all
means a
of
lot.
us. Um, you're making your Broadway debut.
Yes, my
How
official
is
Broadway
that?
debut, yes.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible and insane and magical and hard and
Mhm.
um all of this like cornucopia of emotions at the same time, you know? Um it's never lost on me at the end of the show.
Mhm.
Um even on the days where my body is so tired and I feel like I'm kind of living Groundhog's Day. This is the longest run I've ever done.
Yep.
Um and so, even on those days where it feels very much like a job, there is
Yep.
still an essence of the dream in there. And
Yeah.
so, that has been a beautiful coming of age in the realizing of the dream, that the dream is always exists every night, but the word job is attached to that dream
Yeah.
now. And
Mhm.
so, coming to terms with that and also being very uh, kind to myself about allowing myself to feel all the emotions that come with having a job that is this demanding.
Correct.
Like, it is a demanding job.
Correct.
And,
Did you know always that this was, like, the dream, or did you go what was your trajectory before that? Like, in terms of your education, in terms of your upbringing, in terms of being integrated in theatrics?
oh, yeah. I mean, I was dancing on tables when I was 5.
Right.
Like, I wanted to perform for the crowd. I wanted
Yeah.
to be so I always wanted to be the center of attention. And,
Mhm.
I love my sister, and she loves that I always say this, but, like, my sister danced, so I danced. And she got me involved in that. And but from there, it was less about the technique and dancing. It was more about, oh God, I really like to be on stage. And I really
Mm.
like what this feels like. And um I loved that transfer of energy between me and the audience from a
Yeah.
very young age. You know, I remember being there was this company called Missoula Children's Theater, and they
Yes,
traveled around the country.
uh-huh,
People never know Missoula, but
I
yes,
I almost did it.
you
I was
did?
offered a contract, and then I was like, "Do I want to do this?" And I turned it down for a different contract. This was, yeah, like, right after undergrad. Mhm.
Wow, okay, that's
Yeah.
amazing, I love to hear this.
Yeah.
But they would come and you would literally do a show in a week,
Mhm.
and I was in kindergarten, that's how you had to be in kindergarten, and, you audition with, like, "Row, row, row your boat,"
Yeah.
and then you did the week, and so we were bumblebees in Sleeping Beauty because, of course, there's bumblebees in Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah. Why wouldn't there be?
And there was one moment where all the bumblebees ran across stage, and I got to be the last bumblebee, and I was late. So I ran late, I did a little spin, and then I ran off.
Oh,
And it's
cute.
opening night, it's the big moment, it's my big moment. I run on stage, I do my little spin, and I run off, and the audience erupts in laughter. And it was
Oh.
like, I was like, that was the most incredible feeling in the world. Like,
Mhm.
I, and I
No, it's
sometimes I
literally
wish I could
imprinted
like
on you. It's
yeah,
imprinted on
I
you
I wish I could,
now.
like, astroplane to that moment some
Yeah.
days where I'm like, "I just wanna feel what that was one more time,"
Mhm.
and I do get that feeling, like, I do get that
Yeah.
feeling when, I remember in We Are the Tigers, our first preview, and I accidentally, like, hurled, I threw a pom-pom at someone, and I was supposed to just toss it back, but I just, like, was so
Oh,
adrenaline
no.
filled and nervous that I hurled it at someone, and it kind of like she caught it, but it kind of jolted her, and the audience laughed, and it was like
Yeah.
a split second of that. Oh, okay, I did it. I did something. It's like that funny feeling. So,
Yeah.
but to answer your question in a very long-winded way, I always knew, and in
Yeah.
a beautiful way, my parents always knew. Like, I was very good at this from a very young age, and it was less about my talent, but it was more about my passion. Like, I would
Mhm.
do anything to be on stage in the
Yeah.
best ways and in the worst of ways.
Yeah.
And I think my parents realized that and was like, "We can't see Mimi doing anything else." And
Oh,
so with that kind of love and support, I it just it gets it's rocket fuel to make it,
yeah.
and it comes with a lot of hard work and a lot of, emotional turmoil and happiness and all kinds of
Yeah.
things, but yeah, I always knew that it was going to be Broadway for me. It was going to be
Yeah.
performing for me.
Yeah. Well, now that you're in it, I'm curious how it's been for you in terms of the sustaining of it. You kind of mentioned it turning into this job thing. I remember that happened to me on Band's Visit too. And it was like maybe like show 50, which honestly feels really low out of how many we ended up doing. But at show 50, you're like, this is in my body. I could do this in my sleep. I probably am doing this in my sleep. And how do you muscularly keep that fresh? How do you emotionally keep that vibrant? How do you stay present and listen? And I just remember this one night on stage where it was exactly that. I was like, it was kind of like an out of body moment where I was not there. And I had this come to where I was like, did I do any of the things that I just thought I did? Like, I could have sworn that I wasn't existing, and now I'm actually on the stage and there's thousands of people who are watching me. No, no. There is some person in that audience who paid a lot of money to see you. This is their first show they've ever seen, ever. How dare you phone it in and rob this person of an experience that actually might change the course of their life? Like, how dare you? And there was like a light bulb moment that I had literally on stage in real time while I'm doing my job, where it's like, how dare you feel so privileged that you can just sit there and not actually like dial it back and remember what you're doing? Anyway, all that's to say, how is that for you where you realize, oh no, this is a job and the marriage of your art that you love so much?
Yeah, well, for me, it hit kind of around that like January, February, 5, 6 months, right?
Yeah.
In February, we were actually really lucky. We had pretty a very well sold February, which is
Mm-hmm.
usually when Broadway takes a big dip because it's
Yeah.
winter. Um, but there's less people out there.
Mm-hmm.
Your body it really starts to hit home.
Yeah.
Your body is like, oh, we're doing we're doing this. We're still doing this. Okay.
Yeah. It's also
Um,
cold. It's also like
it's cold.
drearier out. You're lacking vitamins.
It's down to like how do we heat the space in a way
Yeah.
that's not too hot or too cold? It's like
Yeah.
there's so many things that go into it. So that's when it kind of hit for me. And to give context, like I found out I got a beautiful noise on my birthday last year. So
Oh,
and we started a week later. So on April 26th, really, I've been doing this show for a year now.
yeah.
My body has been living in the show for a year now. So that's a lot of time to be
Yep.
singing the same things, dancing the same things. But for me, it my body is quite tolerant of a lot of things. I'm so grateful for my body. It is such a fucking badass to
Yeah.
be blunt. Um, but for me, it was a big emotional thing. It was catching myself in those moments, being like, in the simplest moments, being like, what am I gonna have for dinner tomorrow? I wonder what I'm
Yeah.
gonna do. And I'm being like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard because it is so second nature, and we are so good at it. Like
Yeah.
it comes from a place of being really good at what you do that you can
Yeah.
kind of like just allow your body to show up
And trusting that
and
your body
trusting.
knows what it's
Yeah,
doing.
totally.
Exactly.
But for me, what I realized was that I was sitting at home drinking coffee till 3:30, uh, you know, doing my skincare and then leaving to go to the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed that because we opened up right before holiday schedule. We were going, 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 press, 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 press. So my body was exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that I woke up, I did the show, I went to bed. And I think that's what made it feel so mundane, which
Got
what
it.
made it feel like a desk job a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've come into the spring and we've come into like March, April, I've tried to be a lot better about being a human during the day and like
Yeah.
seeing a friend for a coffee, running an errand, not being like chained to the fact that I have to be at the theater by 6 o'clock. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of day that happens before 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's been about being a human outside of it and feeling full and whole outside of the theater, and then having the moment of like, oh wow, I just lived an entire day in New York and now I get to do my show on Broadway. Little Mimi dreamed of this.
Yeah.
So it's connecting her dream to like when I wasn't in the show and when I'm in the show that kind of helped me a little bit. And it's hard. It's also what helps you stay mindful in it is knowing like, oh, I did, I recently cut my heel, right? as in an accident at the
Oof.
theater. And my mom was in town, and we had been walking around all day long, and my foot hurt bad. Now,
Mhm.
could I have gone to work and done the show? Yeah. But would I have the whole time been like, I wish I was home? I wish I was home just
Yeah.
relaxing? It's knowing and trusting that tonight someone is going to do the show better than me,
Yeah.
and knowing and trusting to be like, I need to stay home so I can go to work tomorrow and be the best
That
be
part.
me. Because when
Mhm.
I go to work and I'm not feeling 100, or my body needs a night to rest, or I do a lift in the show, my shoulder is really really tight and it's just not releasing and it's just going to mess something else up. It's knowing
Mhm.
when to stay on the bench, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, because what's hard about what we do is there's not a coach there. There's not a
Correct.
coach there to be like, "Hey, Scardulla, you're not doing the thing right. Take a break." There's
Yeah.
no one there to say that to you.
Yeah.
And you have to be your own coach. But we're also bred to be so grateful. Be so grateful you're in this show. You're so grateful. Your show could go away at any moment. Be grateful. You have to perform. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Gratefulness will tear you apart in a
Mhm.
way. Now,
Mhm.
gratefulness will do so many great things for you. Gratitude is so important. But I think that it's knowing when to put yourself on the bench for the night, and
Yeah.
knowing like, oh, this someone's going to do this better. That's why we have incredible swings and understudies.
Yeah.
Um, and those moments where you do choose yourself and your wellness get you back in touch with your body, get you back in touch with what you need. You take a night to give yourself what you need. I take a night to give myself, I'll speak for myself. I
Yeah.
take a night to give myself what I need and what I need to succeed. I'm showing up to work as if it's day one instead of if it's day 205.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that has been really important for me to learn. And that's how I've helped myself sustain in
Yeah.
doing this long of a run, because it's hard.
I think that's such a important thing to note, though, is that arguably the conversation around like swings and understudies and covers and standbys and all of that has shifted, thankfully, because of the pandemic and the need that was like, hey, these people are here saving the show. Could we talk about that? Um, but with that in mind, it's like I feel like when I was first starting out, the ability to call out was like not even allowed. Frankly, when I didn't call out of band's visit until like a religious holiday because it was like, I need to do this. And
Mhm.
I was guilted into like not doing that. But it's like
Yeah.
my understudy wants to go on. I want her to have the opportunity. Why are you also robbing her of that? Like she's incredible.
Yeah.
Like everyone's winning here.
Yeah.
And changing the way in which we're talking about it too, that it's not even about self-care. It's not even about necessarily like calling out. It's like you're a human being whose body is the thing that's doing the thing that you need. And it's like if this body is unable to do the thing, then it shouldn't be there. Like
Yeah.
why are we forcing people to do things? Anyway, I have a lot of feelings about that.
No, I feel so similarly. And I think that, like, for me, it came in as like, oh, they're going to, like, Michael Mayer's going to read a show report that Mimi called out
Yeah.
2 weeks in a and then Michael's not going to want to hire me because he doesn't think I have a
Yeah.
great work. Somehow that narrative got concocted in my brain.
Yeah.
And Michael Mayer's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
he's just the director I work for right now. But, he would never think twice. But,
But also
that
he
is
would
the
probably
narrative
have a
that,
conversation with you and be like, "Hey, is everything okay?"
yeah. And also, like, it doesn't,
And also he's not reading the
it
show
doesn't.
notes to be like tracking
Exactly.
your attendance. Right. Mhm.
Exactly. And I think, as I think as a fat person, as a big person, right? When we walk into the room for an audition, or for an appointment or anything, we are seen as weak,
Mhm.
right? Our otherness is seen as weak. We are not strong enough to um control how much we eat. We are not strong enough to lose all the weight. We are not to maintain a small body, right? Like, there's just, and that's not anybody's personal, that could be someone's personal opinion, but that is like society as a whole.
Yeah,
The
assumptions.
fashion
Mhm.
industry, the television industry, every industry is taught that there is privilege in thinness, there
Mhm.
is excellence in skinniness. So when I walk into an audition, I walk in with, I not only have to prove to you that I'm talented, I have to prove to you that the body I exist in is not less than any other body that anybody
Mhm.
else exists in. So when it comes to calling out of the show, when it comes to being at work or not at work, there was a whole other like psychological thing that I had to burst through to be like, I can't call out of the show a lot because then people will think that fat people can't hang and need to call out of the show a lot and da da da. Like
Mhm.
I'm carrying all that weight on my
Wow.
shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, which is rooted in truth. There
Mhm.
are people out there that do believe that. But there are way more people that don't believe that. You know,
Yeah.
Stephen Hawking is incredible, and I talk about being a big person and my past experiences and why things mean a lot to me. Why being on this show in the ensemble means a lot to me. And he looks at me and goes, "I don't see you as a big girl. Like that's
Mm.
not I don't see you that way. You're just Mimi. You're just a dancer." And I go, "Stephen, I love you for that. I love you so much for that. And I speak about the past so that more people can see me like you do.
Yeah.
Because you are sadly not the norm. You are not the constant."
Yeah.
And so that's another thing of like self-care and that is on top of that.
Yeah.
Um and in our industry we have created this narrative around. So I agree. I think that calling out of a show you should never feel bad for that, because at the end of the day the producer wants to put out the best show possible every night.
Yeah.
And if you can't call out because of that religious obligation, your head's not going to be in the game. Your head's going to
Correct.
be where you want to be with your family, or where you need to be
Correct.
as your own deep knowing. Like, so to me the best show possible should hit the stage every night. And it's also knowing that sometimes that doesn't include me.
Yeah.
Like that's knowing that I'm really tired, or um I had a vocal injury when we were out of town in Boston. And I think back, and the minute that I saw what I saw on the scope, I should have been like, "Hey guys, I'm out. Like, I
Mhm.
have to go home. I have to heal. I will take this. I will not get this money. And I will go home and I will heal. And I will come back when we go to Broadway better." You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I didn't feel like I could do that. And maybe that would have been, I'll never know if I had made
Yeah.
that choice. But I think for far too long we've allowed ourselves, our body is our blessing. Our body
Yeah.
is our gifts, right?
Yeah.
So if we don't treat our bodies well,
Yeah.
if we don't give our bodies what we need, there is no longer the gift to give,
Yeah.
you know?
Oof. You just spoke so beautifully and openly and vulnerably. So thank you for all of that. And yes, completely to this idea that your body is the gift. I mean, in all, like, regardless of what we do as artists, that is the fact. That
Yeah.
is your vehicle through which you will live your beautiful life.
Yeah.
But also as artists who are using our bodies as athletes, which is what we
Yes.
are on a daily basis, even more so caring for it in the ways that you need to sustain yourself,
Mhm.
forget the industry and the job. It's, I mean, the shifting of the narrative around that has been something that I really want to continue trying to at least talk about, so that we can have the verbiage to hopefully get to a point that this isn't even a conversation we're having. It's part of the norm, as
Yeah.
opposed to the exception. Um, I would love to chat a bit more with you about um, body diversity and being a fat performer and being somebody who is so beautifully vocal about all of that, when so many people cower at even just the verbiage,
Mhm.
let
Yeah.
alone the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to start talking about it, or
Hmm.
it will continue to be this taboo thing, and it's just not.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that it's one of those things that a lot of people feel as though they are being pointed at. Like, you feel this way and you're a bad person and you choose to feel this way. And again, that always exists, right?
Yeah.
But I think that what people don't realize is that as a fat person, we realize the society that groomed you to feel the way you feel.
Hmm.
Like we realize, and in a way, we've had to like Joan of Arc ourselves out of that and restructure our own brains to then now restructure your brains.
Mm. But
Um,
that's, like, not your responsibility. I think, like, what I'm hearing is,
yeah.
like, it's yeah.
Well, no, totally. Yes, it's not my responsibility, but I'm happy to make it my responsibility
Mm,
because I think for me, as I grew up and as I knew I wanted to do this, I looked up to Gwen Verdon and Debbie Allen and Cheetah Rivera and these incredible women that could dance and sing and act all at the same time and could just captivate you
mhm,
in the most incredible ways. And and that's what I trained myself to do. That's what
yeah.
I wanted. And so I was able to kind of block out and put blinders on to all the people that did not see me as such and put
How
me
were
in
you able
certain
to do
boxes.
that? Because that is such mental fortitude, especially as a young person, to be able to tune out such blaringly loud noise, because it's not just in a room that you're
Yeah.
in a rehearsal space, it's magazines and it's movies and it's songs and it's all of the media that we're consuming and it's your friends and it's your peer. I mean, it's literally all.
Yeah.
How do you that is such mental fortitude. How do you tune that out?
I give all the credit to my dance teacher, Diana Jones. She's an
Mm,
incredible woman. Who just saw me from a very young age. Like she saw that maybe I wasn't going to be the most technical dancer and like all that, but
mhm.
she saw that I was meant to be something, and she was very vocal in telling me and my mom and my family about that.
Yeah.
She saw the potential for something, and she never let me forget that potential.
Ugh.
I also have to give all the glory to my mother. If
Mhm.
I said I wanted to be a cheerleader, my mom did what she had to do to give me the chance, the biggest fighting chance I could.
Yeah.
So that was hiring someone to work with me and work with me on getting my toe touches higher, because I had the dancing down pat, I had everything, but like I needed to have a better toe touch. So it was that. Um, you know, it she has always been a champion of that,
Yeah.
of me, of so in her teaching me that, like, okay, you want this, you want A, then we do everything we can to get A.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of hard work. And honestly, I am part of that, tell me I can't and I will show you I can crew. You know
Yes.
what I mean? I'll never forget, I was going to Broadway Theater Project when I was 15, 16, something like that. And I had to get a physical because you have to do that to go to camps, I guess. And
Unreal.
the doctor came in and I was perfectly fine. All my numbers were perfectly fine. She goes, Mimi, you are overweight. And I think I just need to tell you, there's gonna be things at this camp that you're not gonna be able to do. Like you might have to sit out and you might have to you might not be able to keep up with everyone else. So, I am gonna put she's overweight, but working on a lifestyle change on your
Oh
thing.
my god.
And I
How old were
remember
you? How
walking
old
out
were
of there.
you?
I think I was 15,
Oh
because
my
I think
god.
you have to be, I was either 14 or 15, one of those ages.
Mm-mm.
And I remember being like, F you.
Yeah.
You think I'm not going to be able to go there and succeed? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm
Yeah.
going to show you exactly how well I can do.
Yep.
Because you don't know me. You don't
Correct.
know what I dance. You don't know that I am a competition dancer, that I've won dance competitions and I've tapped my butt off. I've
Yeah.
danced till 1:30 in the morning. Like
Yeah.
you don't know my life. So like, who are you to tell me?
Yeah.
And so I've used that, and I've used that continually and continually throughout my life to be like, oh, you think I can't do this, but I
Yeah.
can, and I can do it really well.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, having that kind of, gumption built
Yeah.
into me, you know what I mean? Also really, really helped me allow myself to put on those blinders and just keep moving forward. I think every one of us on earth have a deep knowing, and it tells us what we know, what we need to know, and what we need to hear. The deep knowing knows before we do. To me, that's God. And I think that we know what we need to know to get to where we want to get. And I
Mhm.
think that I saw Gwen Verdon and I was like, yes, that is
Yeah.
me. That is me. that is what I want to do. I can see myself on stage.
Mhm.
And I am so lucky to have been able to stay intact with that specific knowledge
Mhm.
throughout my entire career and not allow others to kind of infiltrate that. And if I ever faltered from that, I was sent a gift of a person. Tyler Haynes is an amazing friend, mentor, brother of mine, creative partner of mine. And when I was at BTP, my second year, I was taking class and I was kind of towards the back, and he was like, "Oh my God, you're great. Come in the front. Like, don't stand in the back." And like it was that reminder of like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I know I'm right. That's
Mhm.
my connection. I'm right. And so I'm just extreme
Yeah.
insanely lucky that those moments have come into my life and have reminded me to keep going forward and keep working towards the knowing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing one is what you keep talking about with like this inner knowing, which is something that Glennon Doyle talks about all the time, and something that I also really deeply relate, that
Mhm.
we've been taught, many of us, to actually
Yeah.
quiet our inner knowing, whether we call it our intuition, we call it our gut, we call it like spiritual, whatever it
Yeah.
is for you. We've been taught to like ignore it or assume that it doesn't know best or that it's not really a guiding compass, but it's
Mhm.
there and it's been there all the time and it will continue being there. So I'm hearing this inner knowing that you have in your own belief, your own worth, regardless of what is surrounding you, and the importance of being surrounded by people who affirm you, who validate you, and who support you relentlessly, regardless of everything else. Not because you need their approval, but because they desperately love and care about you and want you to succeed. And I feel
Yes.
like that's a very different thing than like, oh, I'm trying to find people who are going to just tell me I'm wonderful because I need that because I don't feel it enough for myself. Those are two very different things. It's like the added layer of I know this in myself. No one can take that away from me, even though it's really hard potentially growing up in a world that is going to try to tell me otherwise.
Mhm.
And I'm also blessed to have people that see me for who I am and want to continue uplifting all that I am in a way that is just simply out of support and love.
Yes.
What a gift for you to
Yeah.
have to know
Well,
that and have that.
yeah, it's this, to connect to what we previously spoke about, like it's like that book The Giving Tree, but
Mhm.
except I feel as actors and performers, you're the tree and the little boy.
Yeah.
Like we ask so much of ourselves and we're
Yeah.
so ready to give it to ourselves, and then we just ask ourselves for a little bit more and a little bit more and a little
Yeah.
bit more. Um and so you need that. And then I find sometimes that like the people that help us along the way are like the people reading the book, right? So like
Yeah.
I'm the tree, I'm the little boy, and Tyler or my mom or Miss Diana are the readers who are like,
Yeah.
okay, what I'm reading is that you're not doing A and you need to do B,
Yeah.
or what I'm reading is that you are this beautiful tree that can grow and grow and grow and grow,
Yeah.
right? Um, and it's just about, Krista Chenoweth uses this phrase, that's like in regards to being religious and supporting LGBTQ plus communities. And she goes, um, I learned to read the Bible, I learned to practice my faith like I eat fish. I eat what serves me and I don't choke on the bones.
Mhm.
So, like, I think you can apply that to being a fat person in this industry. You need to take what serves you because you're going to get great advice from people,
Yeah.
but you can't choke on the bones of the people that are closed minded
Yeah.
or not trustworthy of what you can do, or are not enlightened to the possibilities of who you are and what this world can be.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's really important because I will say I am of the minority of bigger people. Um
In what way?
I in the way of like having this determined, unfaltering ability to go after what I want and not allow the other stuff to come in.
Yeah.
When I was younger, you know what I mean? Like, I think I speak to a lot of performers and a lot of just just fat people in the world that aren't performers. And I what I hear is that, well, this person said this to me, so I decided to do this, and I never got to do this because this person said this. And I hear that and I'm like, oh my God, I wish we could have known each other. I wish that you
Yeah.
could have known a Tyler, or I wish you had a Miss Diana, or I wish you had, all these amazing mentors I've had. And so that's what I mean. Like, I really did hit the lottery in the people that I've been surrounded with.
Yeah.
And I hit the lottery within myself of like having that gumption and that trust,
Yeah.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
really, really hard.
Yeah.
And that's why, to connect back, that's why I talk about it so much.
Yeah.
I talk about it so much because I think that the more people hear that you can break that boundary people build in front of you, or that your anxieties build in front of you, or that your uncertainty builds in front of you, that there is a world where you can break through that,
Yeah.
and past that boundary is all this magical stuff that's at your fingertips. I think the more that we have more big booties on Broadway. We have
Yeah.
more people who are there and ready to take chances and are ready to be seen.
Mhm.
And so I use the privilege that I have of having those people surround me and having the determination and the ability to put on those blinders from a young age, to now hopefully like give out more blinders for more youngins to have
Yeah.
that as they go forward.
Yeah.
Because I know there's so many that didn't, you
I
know?
know. I mean, we're not gonna change the entire industry in this one conversation, though the obviously, like, having you here is, like, the hopes that we can begin to include this in our conversations more inclusively. But I'm wondering for people that, say, struggle with even just using the word fat, or maybe somebody doesn't like to be referred to as such.
Mhm.
How do we as a culture begin naming and honoring and also caring for the way in which people like to be referred to, and I know you don't represent everybody, so I don't want to
Mhm.
put this on you as like,
Yeah.
the spokesperson of, but like, people want to be called different things, people feel comfortable being called different stuff. People have their own lives that they've lived beforehand and have different associations with things. How do we begin to change the dialogue around body diversity? Is there a specific way to start referring to it? How do we start including it in the breakdowns of things? What are some perhaps steps in that movement for you?
The first thing that comes to my brain, it's such a big thing.
Oh yeah,
That question is so, it's like an iceberg. It's like
I
one
know.
thing on the surface and then it's so deep. Um,
Correct.
but I
Which
think
is
the
why I
first
name,
thing that
like, we're
comes,
not going to solve all of
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
It's just like the beginnings of even just talking about that iceberg existing.
totally. I think it is, I think it's putting the people where your words are. And that is my version of put your money where your mouth is.
Mhm.
Because I do think that breakdowns are starting to call for all body types and
Yeah.
all things. And I think, um, we're seeing a lot of people doing amazing things. There's a director, I believe her name is Billy, and she directed Cinderella somewhere regionally. And this past summer, and I went in for Cinderella. And I think that the language in her breakdown was so beautifully said. And she not only wanted all types of people, you were actually like, when waiting to audition, seeing all
Yeah.
types of people. So I think that that's really important. Um, that calling for all types of people and then showing that,
Yeah.
and actually doing that. I also think that it's respecting the, you know if a role is played by someone of size, of a fat person, of a big person, I think that they should then be covered by someone who is big. Um,
Mhm.
and I think, respecting that as a type of human that needs to be seen on the stage.
Correct.
Um, I remember during the um, flourishing, the blaze of the Black Lives Matter movement in theater. Um, I was at a protest that was at Columbus Circle, and his name is escaping me. He said, "I want to I want to ride the subway and see all these people, and I want to go to a Broadway show and see all the same type of people. And
Yeah.
I think that that is a beautiful way to put it. So I think it's that. I think it's putting your people where your words are, bringing those people in, seeing them, taking chances on people.
Mhm.
I think it is opening your mind and taking the chances on, you know, what does a beautiful ingenue look like,
Mhm.
and what do you think she looks like, and what has she always looked like?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, Mimi, what's your dream? Or what's your this? I was like, I want to be in a show where someone falls madly in love with me and it has nothing to do with my size.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And I think that's what I think we just have to start opening the door a little bit wider. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I think that's how you started. I think you bring in all types of people and you see all types of people, and
And you
you
trust. You
you trust the
trust.
audience to
Yeah.
see and love and appreciate that.
And your
Um,
artists to show up. Like, I think that it goes back to what you were saying
yeah,
earlier about, like, people having perhaps assumptions about certain body types being not able to do things. It's like, if
yeah,
this artist is showing up, trust that they think that they can do it, and they will
yeah,
prove to you that they can.
yeah. And I think, again, I've been so lucky that
Mhm.
I have worked with incredible choreographers and directors who have been champions of
Mhm.
me and seen me as the type of performer I am. And for every one of them, there's three that, won't even let someone over a size 8 think about the ensemble.
Yeah.
And that's what's so important to me about being in a beautiful noise, is that, you know, I was previously in a show and I was like, everyone knows that someone looks like me can play a stepsister. Like that
Mhm.
that trope, the big girl stepsister, has been around since the Brandy Cinderella,
Yeah.
right? Which, all the respect to Brandy Cinderella. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
what people haven't seen is a big girl in the ensemble dancing her butt off, all the same as everyone
Mhm.
else. Like,
Yeah.
you do not have that I'm like singing, and I'm gonna run off stage and dance by the bar while everybody dances. I'm not doing that in a beautiful noise. I am in it. I am dancing the whole
Yeah.
time. There is no less. I do no less than any other dancer on stage. And
Yeah.
that's really important.
Right.
That is what we have to see more of.
Yeah.
Um, or I want people to take more chances on,
Mhm.
because I think that, I always used to say, you're missing out on so much fun just because you want to do lifts. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
You are missing out on so much intricacies, and so much, so you're letting down so many people who want to connect with your art by not allowing anybody in your ensemble that can't be lifted over someone's head
Yeah.
or whatever. You know what I mean? Also, you're selling your own creativity short.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's why being in a beautifulness is so important to me, because I think that everyone in the world knows the tropes of the big girl, the best friend, the Tracy, the stepsister, the goofy one, the la 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 la, the no one could ever be in love with me.
Yeah.
But what we don't see is the leading lady, the
Mhm.
fierce dance ensemble member,
Yeah.
and I just, that's where I want us to go, is that we're seeing everybody in every element of the show.
Yeah.
So, I don't know
Thank
if that
you.
answers your question or not. I
Yes, I
was on
love
kind of a
that.
tangent.
No. I'm here for a tangent. And then what about the verbiage around it? Obviously, it's, everybody has their own preference for how they like to be referred to in their own bodies. Why for you is the word fat specifically important? How have you also found other folks like the actual literal words?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I use fat because I think it's really important, because fat, if you look up the definition of fat, there is nothing about ugly,
Yeah.
unwanted, less than in the definition of
Mhm.
fat. Fat is a fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, but I think it became this word that, oh my god, I look fat. Oh my god, I look fat. It became this big negative. And to me, using fat and saying it, I'm fat. Oh my god, it's so fun. We're fat. I'm fat. Um,
Like reclaiming it?
it reclaims it a little bit and
Mhm.
says to people that that doesn't mean, um, I'm ugly or I'm
No.
less than, or it's not a, you know what I mean? Like, it's become a bad word, and
Mhm.
it's no reason that it should be a bad word.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's why I use fat often. I use fat, I use big, um, I use all the words that people like, "Oh, I look so big today." I'm like, "Oh, okay,
Mhm.
a great word." Um,
Mhm.
but I think that what's important is, I think when you're first meeting someone, to not put upon them your opinion of them. So I will sometimes make a joke. I'm like, "Honey, she big. These thighs, they don't lie." And someone's like, "Oh my god, no, you're beautiful." And I'm like, "I know I'm beautiful, and my thighs are
Yeah.
big, but I'm happy to now know how you feel. Like, I'm happy to now know that you think I should hate my thighs." That's
Mm.
what that tells me. That
Mm.
doesn't tell me that you want me to love myself. What it's telling
Mhm.
me is that you think I should hate myself, but I
Mm.
actually don't.
It's a reflection of them
But
over you.
it's a
Correct.
reflection of them over me.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's just about kind of like falling in line. I think it's very hard in that sense when it comes to size because, we have like we have whatever the standard size. People now have mid size, plus size,
Yeah.
da da da. I think it's verbiage is hard.
Yeah.
And I feel hard. It feels hard to speak about what verbiage to use and what not to use. I think
Yeah.
follow someone's lead.
Yeah.
Um, in that sense, or if you're meeting someone, and don't say anything about it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, don't other someone just for the sake of othering them.
Yeah.
I remember in the costuming process for the show, we would have stand-in costumes, and it would always be like me and another girl in one type of stand-in, and then every other girl was in another type of stand-in. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't deserve that
Right.
othering. You
Yep.
either find one dress that fits all of us as a
Mhm.
stand-in, or you just don't do a stand-in until the actual costume's ready.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Did you say
Um,
something?
we did, in the grand scheme of things, we did.
Good.
And again, it's never done in malice. That's what's so
Mhm.
hard about it all. Is no one's trying to other us.
Yeah.
But it's just those little things that feel okay that in the end don't feel okay. That make you feel, mm, that takes
Mhm.
you back to being a little girl who can't wear bikinis, who can only wear one pieces. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so no one should have to deal with that social thing in at work.
Yeah.
Um so I don't know about the verbiage thing for me, but I think it's following someone's lead, and I think it's
Mhm.
about when you don't have to say something about it if there is not something to be said. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Mhm. And then I think also the trying and messing up. I think there's something about people not wanting to I think about it from, like, a breakdown perspective and, casting and producers and, like, wanting to in the effort to be inclusive, there's actually some harm being done because they're actually tiptoeing around the thing rather than naming the thing, and it's like, you can name the thing and then we could readjust,
Yeah.
also. Um, I think yeah, it's just helpful, I think, to talk it through, and so
Yeah. And I agree. I think it's just being like, if you want someone that's plus size, say that. If you want someone that's this, say that. If you really don't care, just don't say anything about
anything.
body type.
Correct.
Actually, anything about body type. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, I I think there's so much road to travel when it comes to that
Yeah.
and getting the people in the room in the right ways.
Yeah. Before we fully wind down our time, is there anything like on your heart or anything on your mind that we didn't discuss that you want to share or you want to bring into the space?
Ooh. I'm in a space right now where I am focusing on myself,
Mhm.
because I think often what people don't tell you when you're on Broadway or when you're in a long running show, I won't even say Broadway, there are tours, there are people in
Mhm.
tours that probably experience very similar things,
Or cruise
or
ships or
or
something.
cruise
Yeah.
ships or
Mhm.
anything. What no one is talking about, or what no one's talking about realistically, is like the anthropology of it all, of the
Mhm.
socialization of it all, the social, dynamics. And I think that in my everyday life, I am so empathetic and I'm like a little sponge. I absorb and I want to be there for people and I want to, help them. Um, but I think that doing a show 8 times a week, doing a long running show, doing the same thing wears. And I think when that's wearing and then you're going to work and you're worried about everybody else's wears, that I found myself not serving myself. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I was serving everyone else at dinner and then there was no food left for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people talk about this. A lot of people talk about this. Um, and I talk about it only because it's really hard for me to make the choice to serve myself, to make the choice to keep my podcast in while I get
Yeah.
ready instead of socially engaging. In my brain, that makes me look mean or cold, or someone's gonna think I'm upset because I'm not talking like I usually do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm gonna have a better show and I'm gonna be a better friend and be in a better headspace throughout the show if I take that extra time for myself.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I want, up and coming artists to know, or just artists in general to know, is that serve yourself at dinner too.
Yeah.
Serve yourself what you need and what is going to, you know, fill your cup
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And
Yeah, you can't pour
I
from
don't
an
know. So
empty
yeah,
cup.
you can't pour from your cups. And I think it's hard. It's hard because you are in one little room with 10 other personalities, 10 other days. Everyone's walking in having lived vastly different days.
Mhm.
And that can become like a little like circus in your
Mhm.
brain. And so it's knowing that it's okay to like choose yourself in that situation, or
Yeah.
separate yourself in a situation, or engage or not engage, or you
Mhm.
know what I mean? I think it's really hard because
Yeah.
we all want it to be like kiki kaka, ooh, 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 we're so friends, happy, happy, happy. And we all are friends. We all are happy, happy, happy. But some days you just need to like stay plugged in. And
Yeah.
you need to, some days I just get ready at home so that I can like show up to work at the last possible second. I can put on my costume, I can do my job, and I can get back home. Right?
Yeah.
Like there are just layers and layers and layers and layers of that. And it's something that I didn't have a big awareness of that
Mhm.
social aspect of
Yeah.
being in a long running show. And so I think that like if you're prepping to do one, if you have the desire to do one, know those things, know those touchstones that you have to bring you back to yourself and connected to
Yeah.
yourself and your feelings and your wants. Especially if you're empathetic like me.
Which most of us are. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
so many of us are just feeling human beings. And I think just
Yes.
adding to that too, just, not taking it personally from the receiving end. It's like when you are
Yes.
in the dressing room and somebody else is doing that around you and somebody else is taking care of themselves or listening to their, AirPods or scrolling on their phone and not really engaging or just reading a book, whatever they're doing, also remembering that has nothing to do with you.
That's nothing to
And
do with you.
yeah,
And it's
which is so hard.
magical.
It's a
It's
hard
hard,
muscle
but it's
and
magical. I will
mhm,
say 2 people who have taught me so much. One, Paige Foray, who's a Broadway legend. If you don't know her, she's incredible. She has just kept me so centered and grounded and checked in um and so realistic about what's happening around me and what's happening in the show and how
mhm,
Broadway just exists in general.
yeah.
Um so I love her. She's taught me that. And Tatiana Lofton, who's in the show with me, she's insanely talented. But Tati is like tapped in. Those AirPods
Mhm,
are in. She is watching a Real Housewife and she's getting ready. And
yeah,
she goes on stage and she's there with us and present. And that is just her process. And I observed it a lot when we were out of town in Boston. And I was like, that's so wild. But now being on Broadway, I'm like, yeah, there are days where I just need to listen to Las Culturistas until the last possible moment and be in my joy. And then I can go, tell everybody about Neil Diamond. Like
yeah,
it is just I appreciate people who are so firm in knowing themselves because it's helped me know myself and know what I've needed.
yeah,
So those
yeah.
two ladies have like been amazing for me.
I love that. Um, for anybody who wants to follow along on your glitterly, sparkly, gorgeous journey, or if they want to work with you or they want to hire you, what within your own boundaries is the best way for people to reach out?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so reach out to me on Instagram at MiMi Scardulla. Um, and yeah, do that. That's
Great.
I'm pretty good at responding to that. But I would love to work with you. I would love to coach you. I would love to teach for you. I would love to chat with you. I have a really cute dog. I post about her all the time. So yeah, follow
I
along.
love
It's
that.
a we're twirling somewhere.
Thank you so much for joining us in this space and for going on this journey. And again, for just being so open and vulnerable and transparent and visible for people to actually see themselves. And I'm so excited for all that is in store for you on your beginnings of your journey. You're so young. Like your career is going to be long and fruitful. So I'm
Oh.
just really pumped to continue being in your corner and supporting you and seeing how it all continues to play out. So thank you for being here.
And thank you for having me and giving me space to rant about my deep inner knowings and feelings and fatness. I love it. I love it.
Anytime, truly anytime.